Our second Google Sheets assignment is going to have to do with some more work in formulas. And I'm going to demonstrate it here in a minute. Right now, you're looking at the handout that is associated with this assignment. And it looks like, when you look at it right now, it looks like that's all of it. You know, that you just get down to the kind of bottom of the first page and that's it. But there's more because these sections wouldn't fit on the same page, so I just put them on a new page. But what's going to happen here, there are going to be 3 different pages that you're going to work on where you have some work to do with formulas, and it's not a ton of work. It really isn't. So just watch and kind of follow along here. There's one called grades. You're going to do something with that. There's one called temps, and you're going to do something with that. And there's one called hoops, and you're going to do something with that. You're going to have to do a little formula work, and you're going to have to do at least a little bit of formatting work on each one of them as well. All right, so you'll have a file provided for this one. It'll be hooked up on Google Classroom, and you'll be able to click your copy of this file, and it will open up, and it will put your name on it, and so that'll be the file that you turn in. It'll be saved on your Google Drive. I have to do the whole make a copy. All right, you guys don't have to do that, but I do. All right, so I'm going to make a copy of it, and let's catch this first of all. Right now you're looking at the first page. It's like a grade book. This is me being goofy. The class is Advanced Yeti Studies, period 4, and you've got 10 students in there with names like Robin Banks, you get it, and Jack Hammer, and Noah Lott, and Antiquia, and oh well, anyway, Joe King, just joking, Joe King. All right, so anyway, there's a bunch of names in there and a bunch of test scores, and we're going to calculate some averages here in a minute, and it's really not hard. But the thing I want you to see first is, if you look at the very bottom of Google Sheets here, there's tabs down at the bottom. This is the grades page you're looking at, but here's another one called temps. So don't do the first one and then think you're done, because you're not. Right? This one has to do with average summer high temperatures and average summer low temperatures for some places in the United States that, by the way, really do exist, like Lickskillet, Ohio, and Boring, Oregon. Those are real cities. You can look them up. So we're going to do a calculation there, which I will come back to here in just a minute. And then there's also a third page where it's called hoops. And you've got, it's based on Space Jam, where you got Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny and Porky Pig and Elmer Fudd and Daffy Duck as the players. And they've played basketball. They played 5 games. Their total points are being calculated, but we're going to calculate their average points as well, and we'll come back to that here in just a minute. But the thing I want you to see here first is that there are 3 pages: grades, temps, and hoops. And so don't do one of them and then think you're finished, because you're not. You got to do all 3. All right, let's go back to the grades page. And really, simply, here's all we're going to do. I want to calculate the test average. The scores are already in there. You don't have to put scores in. So, like, I'm going to use Robin Banks first here. Robin Banks is the first student on row number 10. So I'm going to click where it says 88 right there. I'm going to drag to where it says 96 right there. I'm going to let go of the mouse. And this is going to be an average. Well, in our first assignment, we did some sums. This time we're going to do an average. It works the same way. It'll come up here to that the little Greek symbol for summation up here, that E, that Greek E. And I'm just going to pick average off of here. And it's going to show me the formula, average C10 to L10. And I'm just going to press the Enter key. And it calculated the average for Robin Banks. Cool. Now, today comes a way to do that on all of the rows faster than just doing it over and over, because that would be the idea, right? We want to take Bill Board here, and we want to calculate his average as well, but there is a faster way. After you press Enter on this test average for Robin Banks, you can click back up on it. I clicked back up on cell M10 where it says 89. That's Robin Banks' test average. And if you look carefully in the corner, there's a little block on the bottom right corner of that cell. And so if you move your mouse over it really carefully, you'll see it changes. It changes to this plus sign. I'm kind of doing it off and on. If you grab that right there, it's called the duplication handle. If you grab it right there and drag it down, pull it down to until you run out of numbers. You know, I'm going to take it down to row 20 here, and then let go of the mouse. Click, drag it down, and let go. Oh, look, it took that formula, that average, and it duplicated it for all of the rows, And it's smart enough to know that you're not just duplicating the number. You don't want it to say 89, 89, 89, 89, because they don't all have the same average, right? But it duplicated the formula. And so it's looking at, for example, for microphone here, it's looking at his numbers. It's looking back here at his numbers and calculating the average, and yay, there we go. All right, so now the other thing you've got to do here on each one of these is you got to do some formatting. That's going to be required today. If you don't do any formatting at all, you're going to lose some points. That's just the way it is. All right, so you can do things like you can change alignment. You can get in there and change. These are just set to like real basic fonts. So you can get in there and change fonts and change font sizes, things like that. And you can, gosh, I'm just kind of making it up as I go. You can give them borders if you want to. I'll just kind of put a border around it, a little bit thicker border around it. And I might use that bucket thing to, give it a fill. And you can, I'm not going to be that picky about how you format it, but you got to have some formatting, right? You got to change some fonts, some alignments, some colors. You got to do something to dress it up a little bit. All right, this one's done. Let's move on. I'm done with that one. Okay, on the temps thing. So here's what we've got. I'm going to work with Smileyburg, Kansas first. In the summertime, on an average day, it gets around 89 degrees. In the wintertime, the average low is 27 degrees. What we're going to figure out is, okay, what's the temperature range? How much difference is there between the average high and the average low? Well, let's put your math brains to work a little bit. A difference is calculated by subtracting. All right, so we want the difference between the high and the low. All right, well, here's how we're going to have to do that. This is not a time where we can just go up to this button up here and just have it kind of, figure everything out for us. But it's also not that hard either. All right, so let's take a look. We're going to write the formula ourselves. And every time in Google Sheets, if you're ever writing a formula yourself, it always starts with an equals sign. So that's the first thing you type, equals. Now, when I'm going to do a math like setup or an equation, I like to put it in parentheses. You could probably get by without putting it in parentheses, but I like to. I like to put it in parentheses. All right, so I'm going to do that. Okay, now what we got to do next is we got to think. I don't want to just type 89 minus 27 because that's not really going to help us. We get the same answer on every row that way. I don't want that. I don't want the same answer to the same problem every time. So what we have to do is take a look. Okay, for Smileyburg, Kansas, their summer high is 89. What cell is that in? If I look back at it, it looks like it's in C5, right? So I'm not going to type 89. I'm going to type C5 on the keyboard, C5. And what is it we said we're going to do? How do you calculate a difference? Oh, you subtract. So I'm going to say C5 minus, and what is it I'm going to subtract from C5? Well, let's logic it out here. I want to subtract the average low, so that's over there at D5, I do believe. So I'm just going to say D5. All right, so if you look at my little formula that I created, I'm telling the computer, okay, go look at whatever number's in C5, and then from that number, subtract D5. And then I'm going to close my parentheses because you should always close parentheses if you start parentheses, right? And so it says equals parentheses C5 minus D5, close parentheses. And as soon as I press enter, it does the calculation. The difference between the two is 62 degrees. They have a 62 degree range between their average high and their average low. Now we're going to pull the same trick we pulled a moment ago. I'm going to bring the cell pointer back up to there. I'm going to look carefully for that little box in the bottom right hand corner. Click, hold, drag it, and bam. All right, so that duplicates the formula, and we should not see the same number over and over and over, and we don't. Right? We've got it's calculating the difference between the numbers, and I think I'm pretty darn sure they're right. You can double check it if you want to, but like for example, 81. Pretty sure that 81 minus 20 is 61, right? And I'm pretty sure that 103 minus 68 is 35. There you go. Now again, the only other thing you've got to do here And I'm not going to be that picky about it. You got to do some kind of formatting. All right. I'm going to go with some light purple, and I'm going to throw some borders in there. And, however you want to do it is okay. I'm not going to be that picky about it, but you got to format a little bit. I want you to dress it up. All right, let's move on. Let's finish. Going over to the hoops spreadsheet. Remember, the tabs are down at the bottom. We've got grades, we've got temps, we've got hoops. All right, so here's what we're doing this time. These 5 players, Jordan and Bugs Bunny and Porky Pig, all these guys, have played 5 games. Okay. So in game 1, game 2, game 3, game 4, game 5, you see how many points they scored. Now, there's already a formula in here calculating total points scored in the 5 games. Jordan has 87 points and is not the leading scorer, by the way. So he's got 87 total points. And that's done by a formula, by the way, that is looking at, B8 and C8 and D8 and E8 and F8 and adding them up. Okay, so here's the thing. If we're going to calculate the average, like for Michael Jordan, we want to calculate his average points. How many points does he average per game? Well, do you remember your averaging? To do an average, you have to add the numbers and then divide by the number of numbers. But here's the tricky part. Do we want that 87 involved in the average? No. That can't be a part of that number can't be a part of the average. That'll mess it up. That'll throw it off. So we cannot, what that means is we can't just like drag it across here and come up and do that average thing, because that's not going to be right. That's going to be incorrect. That would include that 87, and that will not be correct. We're going to have to write it ourselves. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, it's not that bad. Watch. We said a minute ago that anytime you're going to do a formula, it starts with what? Equals sign, right? The next thing in this case, what is it we want the computer to calculate? Well, we want it to calculate an average. All right, so just put the word in. Just type the word. A-V-E-R-A-G-E. So it goes equals average. Start a set of parentheses. Shift 9 on your keyboard. And then we got to look. We're going to use Michael Jordan to get us going, and then we'll just duplicate his. All right, so if we work with Michael Jordan, what cell is his game 1, his 23 points that he scored in game 1? What cell is that in? B8. Now the next thing we need is a punctuation mark, and it has to be this one. If you don't put this punctuation mark in, it's not going to work. You have to. It's a colon. It's right next to the letter L on your keyboard. You have to shift to get a colon. It's the double dots. It's not the semicolon, which looks like a dot and a comma. It's the double dots. All right, so you have to shift to get that. And then we got to look for Michael Jordan, game 5. He had 25 points. What cell is that in? F8, I do believe. So I'll just type F8, and then I'm going to close parentheses. Now you can see, when you see those little orange dotted lines pop up on the computer, you know, well, okay, those are the numbers that it's going to use in the calculation. Does that look right? And I think it does. In this case, it's not using the 87. That's good. So it's just using those game 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll just press the enter key. And he had 17.4 is his average, right? So I'm going to click there. And I'm going to grab that little handle, bottom right-hand corner, grab that little handle and pull it down to row number 12. And we have average points for all the players. The only other thing that I'm going to require of you here is a little bit of formatting. And I'm not even doing that much formatting today. I'm coming up here and saying, well, I'm going to fill it with some kind of, I'm going to fill it with some kind of color. And I kind of like having a little bit of border work in there. It's kind of thick, though. A thinner border. Yeah. All right. Cool. That looks good. I think that looks okay. Format it pretty much however you want to. That's kind of up to you. So we've done it. Look, we've done it. Yay, yay. We did the grades. We calculated averages there. We did the temps. We calculated the difference between the high and the low by doing some subtracting. And then we did the hoops. By typing an average formula manually. We did it ourselves. We didn't just use the tricky average button. So yeah, it's all done. And then this would just be, it should save automatically and it's ready to be turned in. All right, I think you're off and running.